Hello, how are ya? So I love gathers, all those floofy, fluffy, feminine frills and things, but they can be such a pain to sew, especially when you're trying to go by the instructions that your patterns will give you. I'm going to show you a better way. So what you'll need is crochet thread and a machine that can do a zigzag stitch. That's pretty much it. You can get this from Hobby Lobby for less than $3, or if you're thinking of sewing something to make like a circus tent into a skirt, it also comes in this size. So the reasons I don't like the old way of doing it, the way that the instructions that I just threw behind me, it tells you to sew the gathering stitch on the seam line, which is a pain to try and get out. It's not too big of an issue if you're just doing it on a small piece of fabric, but if you're doing like a skirt or a petticoat or anything bigger than like doll sized, you're not going to want to have to pick all of that fabric or the thread. You won't want to pick all that thread out. It's also a huge waste of thread because you are going around twice, and then if you're doing it all in one long piece, which is what you're supposed to do, it can snap. And then if it snaps, you're just out of luck and it's frustrating and you want to crumple it all up and throw it into the corner and never work on it again. Ah! I'm going to show you the better way. Don't worry. Here we go. Here's a quick close-up on what the pattern tells you to do for gathers, and can we all just take a moment to appreciate this gem right here? Machine stitch. Yeah, machine stitch. Okay. I'm going to be using a bright blue. Oh, I forgot to grab my fabric. Come here. Okay, I'm going to be using a dark blue just so that the folks at home, aka you, can see the thread over the crochet thread. If you're doing this and if you're following my instructions, first off, thanks. I'm glad you found it helpful. But I would suggest using a thread color that matches your fabric, at least one of your fabrics. So just grab your zigzag stitch, make sure you're using a foot that can accommodate a zigzag stitch, and then I'm going to make it as wide as it'll go and a little bit longer, just so we're not going to be here all day. And actually, I'm going to test it out, so we'll go like this. Yeah. Okay. That's perfect. That'll work. That'll work. Alrighty. So what you're going to want to do is just sew inside of the seam line, because this will stay... Where's my end? Where's my end? This will stay in your finished... There it is. You're not going to be taking this out. This will stay in your finished garment, or whatever it is that you're gathering. Curtains or whatever. I suggest sewing it on the wrong side of the fabric, and then you're just going to leave a little tail on the end, maybe like 2-3 inches. Feel free to leave however much you would like to. And again, we're going to be stitching in the seam allowance. I think I've said that about 6 times now. So basically, I hope you can see this. I have a little line on my foot, which is very, very helpful. I just keep my crochet thread on that line. So now we're going to stitch, and make sure that as you're stitching, the needle does not hit your crochet thread, because you want this to be like a little curtain rod, and then this is your curtain that's going to slide on. When you get to the end, leave another little tail on the end of your crochet thread. When I do gathers, I like to find all kinds of points that I can match up, so I make sure that the gathers are distributed evenly. So I fold this one in half, and then I'm also going to fold this one in half. So then that gives me 3 points to match up instead of just 2. And we're going to put them right sides together. Edges need to be even. Then you'll put a pin there. And then you'll match up your start point and your stop point. If you're matching up like dots or something according to a pattern, then you'll match up the dots also. From here, this is the fun part. You're going to take your little tail that you left and just pull it to match up the sizing, so that your gathered layer is the same as your smaller layer, and then you just distribute the gathers so that they're nice and pretty and they are even. I've also found that for larger items like petticoats or skirts, if you want to pin it to your ironing board and just be careful to remove the pins afterwards, that can be helpful too. Just a little another hint there. It's a bonus hint. So when I get the right length from here to here, I just wrap this around my pin so that the gathering won't come undone. Just wrap that around there a few times and tighten it. And then I distribute this, and I may actually do this side first so that the crochet thread is as tight as I can get it and as it should be. So then there's that. Now that I have that where I want it, I'm going to do the same thing on this side. When you're working with larger pieces, you can actually take your pin and pull out the crochet thread like this, and then wrap it around the middle pin so that you can get a better grip. But since my piece is so small, I'm not going to mess with that. Now I'm just distributing the fabric. So now I'm just going to place pins every couple inches. Now that I have my gathers where I would like to have my gathers. And the closer you go to your seam allowance, the better it will be. Like, I'm having a little bit of trouble, but that's just because I'm so close to the edge of my fabric here. Didn't leave myself a whole lot of wiggle room for seam allowance. But it will get easier the more you do it, and you'll figure it out for yourself too. And now we go back to the sewing machine and sew along our stitching line. Make sure you're back on your straight stitch for this part, or whatever stitch it is that you're using to attach your gathers to your other piece. I don't know what I'm talking about anymore. Alright, so 5/8 is usually what they call for in patterns, so we're going to go on 5/8. Make sure you do not sew over your pins. I care about you and your eyeballs. Now this, to me, is the fun part. If you want to, if you're doing several of the same size, you can just pull your crochet thread out and use it again. I mean, you don't have to because there's a ton of it on the spools, but there you go. You could also trim out this piece if you're trying to get it to lay more flat, but that's up to you. So there is the finished gathering. Hooray! Thank you so much for joining me today. I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please leave a like. That really helps out my channel. And if you want to subscribe, you are more than welcome to subscribe. And if not, that's fine too. I understand. So here again is our finished gathering hack. Here's what the seam line looks like. That's why you want to make sure that your thread matches probably your, like what mine is. I'd probably want to use pink instead of blue, but this way you can see it easier. So there you go. Thanks so much for joining me today. Please let me know what your favorite sewing life hack is in the comments section, and I hope I'll see you very soon. Bye!